in public works. Very interesting as you start stepping through this, especially as, when I looked at it, well, I mean, as you look at this list, is there anything that jumps out at you as you're stepping through the list? The thing that got me was, as I looked through the list from what they're looking for, they don't talk about economic development. They don't really talk about the social inclusion aspect of what this brings to the table, which is interesting because I would actually contend those are byproducts of really getting this right in the overall society. So we see there's a transition. We're getting more impact into the larger cities and the counties as far as overall deployment. But how is it growing? Now, a lot of times I go back, I like to look at it from a standpoint, 25 years ago, if you were doing your job, how would you get the information to do your job? You'd walk over to the data center, you'd get the information that you were looking for, you'd bring it back to your desk, and you'd do your job. The interesting thing that's transpired over the last 25 years is this whole evolution of networking. And if you think about what networking has really brought to all of our jobs, whether we're municipal workers or we're working in a financial organization or whatever, the big thing that networking has brought to us is it's given us the ability to take that information and bring it out to the satellite offices. And it has dramatically changed the productivity model for every one of us as workers. And the goal, as we take a look at the efficiency model and that productivity, is how do we start taking that same information that we have at our desktop, expand it all the way out to wherever we are on the road. And that productivity zone is going to give us the ability to transform the way that we do our daily jobs. We like to look at it from a standpoint of you've gained the internal efficiencies within your work environment by expanding the network, giving you internal mobility, and really driving the overall efficiency of the workers. And now how do you expand that out to really transform the way the workers are getting their jobs done? Whether we're talking about your traditional inspections and permitting, or we're talking about traffic management, public safety, video surveillance, stepping all the way through. Sensors are a great way to extend the information circle so that we now have access to information that we never had in the past. And rather than deploying an individual to go find out what's going on, we have the ability to actually utilize the network and extend that so that we have information corridors and really driving that mobility. The focus of the approach, getting the productivity models, driving the cost savings, focusing on those things that will really change and conform to the quality of life initiatives, gives us the ability to take the next step, which is then driving that overall economic development, okay? Social inclusion and the overall capability of innovation. If you think about what's happened in some of the large cities, and I'll use New York as an example. When New York changed the model for quality of life crimes, more people wanted to come to the city. They focused on window washers and people out in the streets begging, and it transformed the model so that more companies wanted to come to New York and spend their money there and have their overall events there. Because they changed the model for the overall public safety piece, they drove the model for the outside ring. So, as we take a look at this, what makes these municipalities successful? We went back and we actually looked at some of our successes. We reached out into the community, we reached out to some of our partners, looked at their models, and we started going through and taking a look from a standpoint, what are the key components that if I went through and I started listing them out, that either the presence of or the absence of would help dictate whether or not we would have long-term viability. As we looked at those, we call it the prescription for success. And I think that if you go through this list, you will see clear items that make a true impact on the society and a true impact on the overall model as to whether or not we can have a success model from a longer-term perspective. And this is clear things, obvious things. You need to have a partnership with people that really understand your business. This is all about domain expertise. Another one of the key items was how do you make the mobility architecture an extension of the core? Think about that transition over the last 25. You took the information from the data center, you used the network evolution to extend that out to the satellite offices. Mobility is all about taking that same capability and extending that core further, okay, giving you the same functionality, same capabilities. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so very specifically from a productivity model, and we will talk a little bit about this as we step into the presentation, but the key thing that people are looking for is they're looking to enhance the services. They're looking to provide more capabilities. From a public safety standpoint, if you think about productivity, if I have a 200-person police force, and I need to put more feet on the street, how can I do that? I could go out and I could hire, more people and put them on the street. Or the model that we've seen a lot of is how do you change that productivity model so that each officer is more efficient? If you think about a 200-person police force, if you were able to actually improve the productivity of each of those officers by 10%, that's effectively like putting another 20 people on the street to go out there and help with those situations. We are seeing more of the communities look at what I would call more services enhancement, utilizing those people to do additional services and taking advantage of those productivity models.